Okay, let me see if this is up. See if it's up, people. Kate Gray is live. Oh my gosh. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I love this environment. It's just me at this point. And it's super fun. I love to stream. I've been talking so recently about, well, I'm always talking about this, is emotions and their value and what they're there for and what we do with them. And I don't know if like this is known, but emotions are so key to your life. I'm just going today, you guys know, as usual. They show you what you should be doing. Emotions. Like, I just made 2 videos this morning about this, like facts over feelings shit. And with everything that's going on in the world and whatever like side you are or whatever, I hate people saying we don't need to listen to our feelings. We need to just look at the facts and the evidence. And that's just where I'm like, God, people, please, we need to pay attention to our emotions. That is actually the problem, is that everybody's so emotionally neglected and emotionally abused that no one is in touch with themselves and this internal stuff happening. So anyway, all to say, back to me, is that I love streaming and I hope I get to continue doing this. I just love this environment. I think the whole concept is so fun and I want to get better at it. I am a very high risk person. I jump into things maybe before everything is planned out. And streaming just seems like a challenge. And I want to learn how to get better. You guys are going to help me with that. Today, what I figured I would do, so, we make plans for calls. We make plans for content. And then for some reason, things just don't work out that way or whatever. And so today, we're just figuring it out. I thought it would be great. I want to hear from you. I want to hear about what you want to hear about. I'm going to have all my stuff pulled up so I can like read this in real time. But I want to know, let me see. Isn't there a chat window supposed to be somewhere? I don't see it. But anyway, I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you need. That's what I want to hear, what you need. Because I have a lot I can say. I feel like this like bank. And I need to know do you need debit? Do you need credit? Do you need 10s? Do you need 20s? Do you need hundreds? Like what are we needing? So much stuff is happening. I feel like I could talk about literally whatever. But going back to our emotions, I'm actually going to go back to what I talked about this weekend. Obviously, shit is going down in the world. Things are always happening, but we're just more aware of it now. And it was funny, a couple weeks ago, I went on my Instagram and was like, I'm open to everybody's feedback. Tell me what you want more of on my page. Tell me what you want less of. Like, I'm so open. I want to meet needs. And I think a couple people said, like, don't get political. Like, do not make this a political page. And it's funny because I just like never think about posting that type of thing. But since I read that, that's been on my mind. And so naturally this weekend, I was like, I had to post about it. And so what I did was I shared my personal views. I don't think that I'm not enmeshed. So I don't think that like everyone needs to think exactly like me. However, I did share my views and I did open a dialogue on my page and I heard from everybody. And it was fascinating because I talked to people. I messaged with some people too, and I engaged with some people that I normally wouldn't, probably around this stuff, and learned a lot. And it always, like, I try not to have this bias, but like it always comes back to everywhere. There's an issue with how people understand emotions and their emotions about what we're seeing online. Like what's happening in Minnesota, for example. We're not looking inside to see what's happening for us inside. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not an internal process. I talked about this a couple months ago. Do y'all remember the Kendra and her psychiatrist situation that was like blowing up on TikTok? Nobody here, I'm not even streaming on TikTok, so I don't even know if people know, but people were so reactive to that situation. And it was just fascinating. And again, it wasn't an internal process. It was just like this crazy enmeshed experience. Anyway, all to say, how many different directions did I just go? All to say that I want to hear your questions. Let me see if there is stuff happening here. Not yet, I don't think. I don't see any comments so far, which is cool. Again, we're building something, people. We're building something. So this is going to take some time. But anyway, okay, back to what I want to talk about today, which is I want to answer people's questions. So what I'm going to do, and I never do this, by the way, I rarely do this. I'm mainly on TikTok and Instagram. And I just, whenever I post something to Instagram, it goes to Facebook. And love my Facebook people, love you guys. And I don't often read through comments. Like, that's not on Facebook in particular. And so what I was thinking about doing now was just going through the comments on some of my recent videos and answering those questions. Like, I will answer whatever. So... Oops, I just clicked on my live on Facebook. Okay. So let's start with this. Okay. Let's start with the most recent post, the 3 examples of emotional neglect. Because I'm seeing right now it's popped off a little bit. And that's relative, But let me first say emotional neglect is the most pervasive issue facing marriages and families today. Okay, you guys have heard me say that. Emotional abuse and emotional neglect. Emotional neglect falls under the umbrella of emotional abuse. Let's talk about it. Emotional abuse. What a fun thing to talk about today. But nobody knows about it. And that's the problem in all of our relationships, is that nobody knows about it. And so when we're struggling in our relationships, when we're struggling perceiving the world, no one knows what to do with their emotions that they experience, except for just pray about it, except for just have perspective. Like, oh my gosh, I saw so many comments yesterday on my TikTok talking about this. So we're going to do emotional abuse is the umbrella term, and we're going to talk about emotional neglect. Now, I talk about this when it comes to relationships with parents, like with estranged parents in particular, because to me, that's like if your kids could talk to you about their hard feelings and you not kind of have all these defensives to block it in the form of like, you need to talk to me respectfully. There's all these silencing tools that parents whip out in these moments. So anyway, it's for me, I think that's like the bridge to dissenting like opinions, views, whatever, between parents and children. Parents are emotionally neglectful and abusive, and that's really hard for parents to hear. In my opinion, that's what's happened. And I know this because when I work with estranged adult children, which I call them emotionally abused children, outside of their relationship with their parents, they have no skills, low skills. All of this is revolutionary about emotions. And it's revolutionary to anybody. So like no knock on people I've seen. This is literally everybody. But to me, this is like the core issue. And when this core issue gets healed, it's like this is the root issue. Is emotional stuff. So when people learn my bend method, when people learn how to figure out their needs, their desires, how to actually feel their feelings. Every single day, I go on my social media, on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and I do tapping videos in the morning because this is actually how to physically feel your feelings. Feelings are energy and motion, emotions, energy and motion. So I talk about this every single morning. It's a little vulnerable, but I love it. People tell me they get a lot out of it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep doing it. But basically, this is what we need to fix in the world, and then we'll be good, really. Because this is half of it, okay? Our emotions are half of it. And so we need to learn bend. We need to learn tapping. We need to learn a hate list. And I have all of these resources, by the way, digital guide on my website. It's like $22. Like, I spent so much time and energy. I got some help to put it all together. It has links to all of my videos, by the way. So if you need like one quick grab, that's it. $22. You'll get it immediately. But anyway, we need to fix this. This is a problem. So I'm going to try to talk about this in a more formal way in general so that this can be more understandable. But let's go through the comments on my recent video, 3 examples of emotional neglect. Okay, all right. So I haven't looked at these comments on Facebook yet before. All right, 3 examples of emotional neglect. I mean, ideally, what's going to happen on this platform is that I learn how to clip a video so that you can see it and it can be in the stream and we can talk about it. That's advanced technology. Again, we will get there. We're building, okay? So let me briefly, because I don't have that option, let me briefly go over what emotional neglect is. I mean, we neglect our emotions. It's not necessarily the presence of something harmful, like, Kate, you're so stupid for feeling angry. You know, like, it's when we have an emotional experience, like we're sad, we're hurt, and we're like, but he didn't mean to. But they were having a bad day. That's emotional neglect. When you don't acknowledge what you're feeling, when you're not curious about it, when you're not sitting with it, you can't feel it, you just bypass it with some like cliche or like perspective phrase. And we do this over and over to ourselves because that's what we learn to do. That's how our parents, our caregivers, people hate that I say parents. Okay, fine. Teachers, caregivers, attachment figures, could be anybody, uncles, older siblings even. That's a little gray area. But all to say is we do this to ourselves because that's what we learned, but through the way people treat us, the way people treat themselves, and the way people treat other people. Okay? So that's really it's a really, mild thing. This is when I get into it with estranged parents because they're like, I didn't abuse my kids. There's no reason for them to be estranged. And I'm like, yes, there is, actually. And you just don't know about it. I came on social media 9 months ago at this point, entering into the estrangement space, like eager beaver, excited to share this information because there's names for it. You can look it up. It's real. And it's becoming, it's really still hard to find information on this, but I got so much resistance. I still get resistance. I'm like, fine. It doesn't change this. It doesn't change it. If anything, it proves it. I mean, I get so much estranged adult kids are just entitled. That's emotional abuse. When they do something you don't like and you write it off as something terrible about them, when you assume their negative intentions. You guessed it. You know why? Because in the power dynamic between parents and children, they can't really do anything about that. You can't really argue with that. If someone is set on believing you have negative intentions, conversation over. That's a conversation ender. They're just entitled. They're just brats. Oh my gosh, I can't. We saw this. We're seeing all of this with Brooklyn Beckham stuff too. Like, he's just entitled. He's just privileged. Honestly, it's so ignorant. And because I I actually get the like reflex to do that. I get that our brains, when taking in complicated information, our brains want to simplify it. Brat. It's like when I hear that, it's like, it's such a reflex for people. So I'm not like judging the reflex, the reaction. What I struggle with is like, is that as far as it goes for you? Like, is that really it? And to me, the reason it's in, again, no judgment for, I don't know, I guess that sounds judgmental, but I just can't imagine with your freaking kid, that's where it ends with you. Like, come on. So that's emotionally, and that goes into verbal abuse because it's explicit name calling. That's verbal abuse, okay? Emotional abuse, though, is when you're assuming, like, it's, you're invading their personal space by naming their intentions. You're just like writing them off. You're an entitled brat. Like, you're controlling, you're just being controlling. Okay? And so, all right, that's like part of emotional neglect. The 3 examples I gave were, what was the first one? Oh, when your parents, they give you everything physically, materially. They take you on trips. They buy you clothes at the beginning of the school year. They will be there for you in a second, even in an emergency. But they don't know how you're doing. They don't ask how you're doing in a way that you feel good about. Like when someone's asking you how they're doing and you can just feel they're like checking off boxes. You know that feeling. It doesn't feel good. You feel drained after. And you don't go to them with your emotional problems, or you don't want to, or you think about ways to say it, like that's ding, ding, ding. Something's happening there. Something's happening that's not good. So that's the first example of emotional neglect I gave, was like when they give you all this stuff, you still feel empty and something's still missing. This is everybody with privilege showing up to therapy ever. I don't know why I'm here. I have everything. That's what we hear. I don't know why. That's what we hear. And it's this. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, the second example of emotional neglect was a spiritual bypass. Was when you're... Oh, okay. I just I can't with this. And it's people are doing their best in these moments. So again, I really think the intention of this, I'm not going to say these people mean to do this. They mean to do this reaction. It's funny though, like your dad dies tragically and people are like, well, he's in a better place. And you're like, are you kidding me? Like, my emotions are real. Like, it's so invalidating to say that to somebody. And I think it's because people don't know what to say. Again, I think intentionally people don't know. I really treat things that way, that people don't know. And then there's resistance to knowing. That's another thing. But that's the thing, is that's called spiritual bypass. When someone comes to you with a problem and you an emotional relational problem where they need help, they need something concrete on earth in this 3D reality we live in. They need validation. They need support. Like, oh my God, it sucks that happened. I can't imagine. I'm so sorry. Ooh, and it takes the skill of self-regulating. It takes the skill of being quiet. And I'm not above this. I'll tell you, okay? When I first was going into school to be a therapist, we have to role play. And when people share, when you're new at something, you don't know what to do. People sit there and they tell you something awful. If they tell you to let's start at a level 2 problem, something that's not that serious. This is therapy school. This isn't real therapy. So it started a level 2 problem. And spoiler alert, a level 2 problem, something mild, it's always traced back to something deeper. Sorry guys, it always is something emotional. It is. People have solutions to their problems. If they don't have solutions, it's because there's an emotional experience happening that they haven't named. The people that are continuing to talk to you about their problems over and over, they're ruminating, they're looping. they're stuck because they're not acknowledging the emotional stuff. There's a metaphor I use all the time. If you guys have seen my stuff, think about yourself as a 2-story house, okay? Your brain, 2nd floor. Heart, 1st floor. Let's see if we can draw a brain. Yeah. Heart. Okay. That's how it is. Okay, our 2 energy centers. Let's just go with this for now, okay? I've described this as like brain, heart, soul, like gut, intuition, in our tummy. We're going to keep it simple. When you're overthinking, when you're looping, when you're going through the same problem over and over and over, when your friend that's in an abusive relationship is ruminating, is looping over and over and over, she's smoky up here. She's ruminating. She's overthinking. She's overfunctioning. Because there's fires on the 1st floor. There's fires here. There's emotions here. I like to think of emotions like energy. It's fire. And thoughts are smoke. Okay, we got to address the source. When you address the fires on the 1st floor, the smoke goes away. This happens every time. Okay? We're overthinking. And then we say, hold on, what am I feeling? Oh, I'm anxious. Okay, what's under the anxiety? Remember, anxiety is an umbrella term for different emotions. What am I feeling? Oh, I'm scared about this and I'm hurt about this. Like, that's what I'm thinking. Oh, okay, yeah, makes sense. That's tough. Then you're validating, you're making space, you're letting this have some oxygen. Okay? Otherwise, it's just carbon monoxide up in here. And then the fires just kind of like they dwindle. Oh, makes sense. You're creating space around it. You're opening the windows, like that's what validating it is. That's what sitting with it is. So that's what we have to do with our feelings. That's why people ruminate. That's why people are stuck. Because again, people have the solutions to their own problems. That's why I think the stupidest thing ever when someone is in a toxic relationship, in an abusive relationship, and everyone's like, just leave. Like, I don't understand why they won't leave. Really? Because they're having an emotional experience that you're not asking them about. They're not aware of. It's not your fault. It's not your responsibility. And your judgment of them is hindering your curiosity of them. And I wonder if you're curious with yourself. And I wonder if you judge yourself. Lots of judgment going on in the world. Lots of it. When I was engaging, I said this weekend, I started a dialogue about what's happening in the world and I heard from everybody. And I noticed in myself, my own judgments, my own subconscious biases, my own parts, my judgmental part that came out. That was like, I was talking with people. I was talking with somebody in law enforcement and they're very pro ICE. Like, I've made it known I'm not. And I can have a dialogue and I wanted to, this is also relative to my position online and stuff. Like, it's a safe space for me. So, it's my page. It's not the Wild Wild West online. This is my page, so it's safe. So anyway, and I just noticed myself like having these judgments came up. Like, I had this idea of who this person was. And the more I talked with them, the more I learned, the more I had to deal with that part. It's easy to be like, let's indulge in that part and then come at them with stank, which, so that part of you, that judgmental part, it is discerning. It is like, let me feel this out. The point is not to just dismiss it, that would be neglectful. We're not doing that. The point is to say, I'm noticing this here. What do I want? Like, what do I want in this conversation? Okay, we're going to notice all of it and see what happens. We're going to regulate and see what happens. So that's what I did. And I learned a lot. And that's the thing. I think as I'm like thinking about this too, I was like, people are scared to keep moving forward even when they feel that judgmental part because they're scared that their beliefs are going to change or that they're going to be wrong. And their beliefs are tied to like their identity and their sense of self. Not gonna lie, when I went into some of these conversations, I was like, am I just gonna feel like the biggest idiot that's been like propagandized to, who's been buying into all the bullshit? And if I did, what does that mean about me? Like, and so I'm open to that too. Maybe so. And I have to be if we're having these conversations, you know? But point being is that I think in everything that I saw, there's all of this happening. And we can't be doing that anymore in ourselves and in our relationships. Just because it's happening all around us doesn't mean it has to happen within us also. And I think that can feel really unfair. I think that can feel, like, why do I have to heal if no one else is? Fair. You don't, that goes back to, well, you don't. You actually don't. You can hang on to it as long as you need to hang on to it. That's part of this. Emotional abuse, we're abusing ourselves when we're like, okay, anger, thanks for showing up. Like, I get it. Somebody crossed your boundaries. Move along. We have things to do. That's not cool. Not cool. That's what this is. We gotta treat our emotions like they're children. Like I have a young daughter. She's crying. I'm not like, wrap it up. Hello. I'm like, dang, I'm going to be here as long as you need. And for me too, I say that to myself too. I'm going to be here as long as you need. And for some reason that's how emotions work. The less you resist them, the less they persist. What's that expression? What you resist persists. That's how emotions work. It's like that Chinese thing. What am I talking about? Chinese finger something. I've been like waiting for this word to come back to me. Chinese finger, Chinese, whatever. It'll come. I'm sure you guys will say it and I can't even see it. But you got to resist it and then it'll come off. It's like with anger, or you got to resisting it. You got to just breathe. Oh, okay. Anger, you can stay as long as you need to. Because I still have things to learn from you. That's the point. If your child is just like tantruming, and you're just like, okay, I'm sitting with you and it's not working. That's like, you're still trying to fix it. Your energy is still trying to fix it. And that's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. It's never going to work. I got to tell you, okay. I got to share this message. Then I promise I'll answer the comments on this video. Okay. I got this message. This is big. And I get these every single day. I made a video yesterday about this. Hey, so my husband and I have been making every effort to validate our son and let him have his emotions. And the change in behavior is drastic. My sweet boy is happier than ever, and meltdowns are less frequent, shorter, and less intense. Less frequent, shorter, and less intense. And she had previously told me that, parents like to say they have a spicy child if they're neurodivergent. So I don't talk about neurodivergence a lot because all this stuff co-occurs with it. I'm not interested in like debating the neurobiology of your neurotype. Like I'm not interested. I respect it. I value it and believe it. And it's totally obviously real. My point is just that this is also real and this needs to happen regardless. Neurotypical, neurodivergent, black, brown, white, purple, red, yellow, everybody needs to do this. Our world is fucked up, okay? And this is why. Part of it, it's why. Power issues, but also this stuff. So that's the second thing. Well, spiritual bypass. I got a little off track. You guys, you get it at this point, right? You do. The third point I made in the video was toxic positivity. And if you guys know Whitney Goodman is the expert on this. I don't know, do I call her a colleague? I don't know. I've collaborated with her before on her podcast. She hasn't come on mine, actually. Should we get her live to talk about this? Maybe. But so the third form of emotional neglect is toxic positivity. And parents in particular and people really struggle with this because I think it can come off as like, well, we've got to say positive things to ourselves when we're, down in the dumps. And that's positivity. We're talking about toxic positivity. When you cannot feel what you're feeling because what's like in your mind is, well, what's some toxic positivity? You should know better. Like, no, you can do this. You can do this. Don't feel sad. Don't feel sad. Don't cry. You got this. You're going to figure it out. Like, that sounds good, right? Like, it sounds helpful. No, it's totally invalidating. Totally invalidating. Where we want to get to is the person getting there on their own because they feel things so well. They're so sad. They're so angry. They're so loved. And you can even reflect back like, I'm so honored to sit with you. I don't know. Is that too corny for you? Probably. I mean, when I tell people this stuff, they're like, I don't talk like that. I don't talk like, okay, it's okay. I'm like, yeah, that's the problem. You need to learn to talk like that. And it's not corny. It's not cheesy. It's just being a mother, a father to yourself. That's not cheesy. The fact that you think it is the issue. Anywho, toxic positivity is, oh gosh, she wrote a whole book on it. So go look at Whitney Goodman. She wrote a whole book on it. I'm blanking right now on examples. So let's get to the comments. All right. My 10-year-old is telling me about his feelings in relationships, and I'm like, what? I would never. Yes, that is great. That is amazing. That's actually a sign that you're not emotionally neglectful, that your kid has like bad behavior towards you, that your kid is telling you about their relationships. If you guys have seen the show Love is Blind, it's like Married at First Sight kind of thing, vibes. And they like blindly meet someone, they talk through a wall or whatever, and then at the end they decide if they want to get married or not. And so there's always like a meeting the parents part of this. Y'all have seen this on The Bachelor, Bachelorette too. And these people, you see them just like opening up to their parents, sharing everything. And I'm always like watching how the parents react. And that's very telling to me. But I'm also like, for the people who have healthy parents who like respond in a healthy way, like you're gonna, I get that. That makes sense. This is hard. We support you. We're so proud of you. Like, what do you think? This is your decision. This is your life. Like all that's healthy stuff. And then you see the other parents that have too much to say or like won't go to the wedding because they like don't support it. Just craziness. So anyway, yeah, that's a good sign that your kids are telling you about their relationships. So when I watch those shows, I'm like, I think about all the people they're like, oh, parents. I mean, I saw a TikTok the other day. It was like, oh, people like go to their parents with their problems, 500,000 likes on it. Likes, that's not even views or comments, right? So anyway, great job, Laura. Yes, keep it up. All right, let's see, Melissa. Raised on 100% toxic positivity. Unraveling that has been a fun adventure. Haha. Yeah. And then someone else commented, ironically saying, it's been fun, haha, is toxic positivity. I suggest you start by acknowledging your true feelings. Oh, critical, but not wrong. All right. Another great example, you approach with an emotional problem and they offer money. Yeah, to a problem completely unrelated to money. Oh, people don't know how to respond to emotional problems. I'll give you a mantra. If someone is coming to you with their emotional problems, shut your mouth. I know that sounds, I don't mean it like harshly. Just zip it. Oh, you know, we learned in school, like, oh my gosh, it was so funny that I'll never forget this. The first class in therapy school, you know, I'm sitting with 30 other students, and the professor is talking. And I'd never heard so many ums and ahs and like, like engagement in my life. And I was like, I thought it was just me. And now there's all these people doing this. This is so funny. Like, this is out of a funny, like, this could be a cartoon, you know, like everyone's like, makes sense. Like, just everyone's validating. It was so funny. So that's just the mantra, like, shut your mouth and like, oh, okay. You know, and just breathe. Okay. That's like step one. Okay. Shut your mouth and just breathe. And like picture you just like holding a bowl for them to put stuff in. You know, that's just like picture that. Okay. I still like to share emotionally with people who don't care because I'm delulu like that. See, that's where we need to be in touch with our emotions and our discernment, our anger, our protection. That's actually something that is very common with those that have been emotionally abused, is like they don't have discernment against who is safe or not. They're just like throwing mud at the wall to like see if anybody responds. But even when people respond, they don't have the attention to know that that's what they need, because they're so used to not getting what they need. And so, you know what I'm saying? Like, so that's why it kind of takes two active people. It takes a different interaction. Yes. It takes a different response. Yes. It also takes like their consent and their awareness around that they can do that or not. So like going back to the emotion, like if your friend that's in an abusive relationship and won't leave or whatever, I'm not saying that you can like fix them by being validating and making space, because they have to consent to it too. So just know that you're responsible to them, not for them. So, okay. Adding to your first point, a child who is emotionally neglected will know they were loved, but they don't feel they're loved. That's the one. That's the one. A child who's emotionally neglected will know. Yeah, that's the thing. That's why it's such a mind F. I'm trying to cuss less, not because everyone's telling me to, but because I just think that's where I'm at. But anyway, that's the mind effery of emotional neglect. Is like I have it in my concrete reality that I can see with my senses. I have what I need. My parents tell me, you know, they're there for me. They take me to school. They do, you know, they give me responsibilities. They're trying to help me. They're doing their best, you know, all this stuff. But you don't feel it. Around them, you feel resentful, you feel empty, and you don't know why, right? Like that's the hard part about this. That's the neglect about it. Okay. This is so helpful. Yeah. Oh, it makes you feel abandoned while also being cared for. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's the like, you think you're crazy. And you're like, is anybody in there? Like, I see you caring for me. You know, this happens, I think especially when, and this is the saddest, when like kids are sick and their parents are like, they love to be needed. So they're like all over it, taking care of them, bringing them stuff. Oh, how are you doing? How are you feeling? You know, but it's really only physical. Like it's not emotional. And even if it is emotional, it's only if you're only seen because you also have the excuse of it being physical. I have a theory, and I've posted about this before. You know how like men stereotypically, like they love, like when they're sick, they're like, it's the end of the world. To me, I'm like, yeah, right. That makes sense. Like the most, you know, they're not the most emotionally neglected group, but patriarchy is a bitch. Okay? With men in particular, and that's a huge part of things. So just saying, that's why it links together for me. All right. I recently told a few people close to me about a SA experience I had, and literally only 2 of those people have checked in on me. neither of which are the family members I shared this with, and people wonder why it took me 7 years. Oh man. That's so hard because the person that's been assaulted needs to be believed, and they need for someone to be like, oh my gosh. Okay, for some reason this is popping up in my head. Do y'all remember the Nashville shooting a couple years ago? I think it was 2022, 2023. Yeah, it was only it'll almost be 3 years ago. The perpetrator, the shooter, had messaged one of their old classmates and said like some crazy stuff about how this is going to be the end of like just some terrible stuff. Like, I don't feel good. I think today is my last day. It was something like pretty explicitly that something bad is going to happen. And the person was like, I pray that you find peace. That's spiritual bypass number one. But that's also like, hello, like I'm in pain, I'm struggling, I'm telling you this. Like, the right answer is like, oh my gosh, where are you? Are you okay? Do you have someone you can talk to? What do you need? You're reaching out to me for a reason. Like, what do you need? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not just like thoughts and prayers. And not to say this other person's at fault, obviously, for this circumstance. And we can learn from this. Like, we don't know, the government hasn't released their journals or their, manifesto. They never release that, despite everybody saying they should. And I wonder what's in there. And we know in like religious culture, in these church environments, spiritual bypass is like the thing. That's like the coping mechanism. What's the difference between spiritual bypass and like organic spirituality? And that's the hard thing. And I wonder what kind of environment this person grew up in, the shooter. This just invalidating, like nothing's sticking, like I can't hold on to anything. Even when I'm in pain, like there's just nothing. I don't know what it is. It must be me. And that really makes me angry. And so not to justify it, but we do need to look at the environment here and learn something. We need to learn something. And to me, this is what I see: invalidation, not seeing someone, not being curious about it, not accepting them. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, especially when it comes to sexual assault at this point, like, God, excuse me. Okay. Problem is, so many people were never taught this, and they don't know how to answer their kids, or they don't know how to be there emotionally for their kids. My parents didn't know how to be. Their parents didn't know how to either. We're the generation that's learning about all of this. That's bypass. One of the ways to break those cycles is to forgive our parents who didn't know how, especially when they were doing the best they know how to do. That's toxic positivity if I've ever heard it. You know why I know that? Based on one comment. Because if someone's like truly forgiven, they're still angry at them, like it's more indifference they feel. They don't feel the need to be coming online, judging, shaming, putting in this 2 cents. Like, that's my opinion. I don't think that people feel the need to do that when they've truly forgiven. True forgiveness to me is a bottom-up experience. You can be angry. And so because you go through all these hard emotions, you don't judge anyone else for going through them too. You get it. You get the process. There's actually one creator that like is always using her experience to talk about this kind of thing, like forgiveness and the culture we live in and all this shit. And I'm like, okay, so you had to figure this out on your own, right? Okay, cool. Got it. That's all. Okay, that's all there is to this. Got it. So there's that. I think, we need to forgive our parents. They did the best we could. That's all I got to say. Okay. Yeah, in college, a classmate unalived themselves. I called my mom for comfort, and she said, that's awful. What have you been up to? What? So people, I wouldn't say they trauma dump, but they share. They obviously it's a safe space, so they share. And it's just, unbelievable, these things that happen. And when we look at it maybe from the parents' point of view, like the parents, we don't know what they had going on that day, right? Yikes. Okay. Somebody said this actually yesterday, and this is the last thing I'm going to mention, but they were like, I brought my parents a problem. How common is this? I brought my parents a problem, and they would say, it would be like this like fake empathy or something. It would be like, well, how do you think they were feeling? What do you, they bullied you. Well, what are you doing? Like they're always playing devil's advocate. Hello? How are you going to do that to your own kid? That's insane. That's insane. Oh, okay. So lesson from today, addressing the comments from this emotional neglect video. Zip it. I have to do this too. Oh, what I was going back to too was like we're role playing in therapy school. Silence is really hard at first when someone's uncomfortable and you're uncomfortable and they're crying, and they're like, I just don't know what to do. You want to be like, oh my God, let me fix it. Oh my God, you're so upset. Let me enmesh with you. Let me fix this. We need to first recognize we're having separate emotional experiences. They're crying, they're in pain, and I'm anxious because I don't know what to do. We need to separate our emotional experiences. And then we need to be quiet. Yeah, it's really hard not to know what to do. Oh, you regulate. There are some therapists I know that do silence in such a weird way. I've gotten comments on this before. It just makes me want to die thinking about this. These therapists that are performing silence for they're just awkward, but fine. If you're going from rescuing to awkward, we'll take it. It's something different. Okay. So yeah, that's the whole process. But that's what Bend is. I have this Bend guide plugging that again. That's what this is. So, okay, I promise you for next time, what's today? Tuesday. Tomorrow, why don't we do this again? I'm going to be here at the same time. Maybe we'll go over some comments. Leave me all your questions today under this video, and maybe by tomorrow I'll have figured out how to pull up a video on the screen or show you the video or something, and this can be cooler tech-wise. Or I can see the chat live. That's okay. That's goals for tomorrow. So yeah, this was fun. Everybody make sure to like and subscribe to my page. I've been advised to do this call to action. So I stream every Tuesday and Wednesday now. Next week I'm doing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So exciting. I love this. Remember, I love doing this. So I want to do it more. And I want to figure out better how to engage with you guys. So like and subscribe. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitch. Oh my gosh, if I had an audience on Twitch, I would just love it. And YouTube. So there's 5 different platforms: TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. Yeah. Subscribe there because then you'll get notified when I'm live, and that'll be cool. So thanks for listening. Leave me your questions, and we're learning and improving every day. Thanks for listening. Stay studious. Stay a student of your life. Remember, and we're working on this. This is a work in progress. You're here. You're learning. It doesn't matter where you're starting, but we're learning. Okay. I'll see you guys tomorrow.